Hi all. Right. It appears I owe certain people an apology. I'm going to come to that and explain what I'm apologising for shortly. But it revolves around, excuse me, this ACA500 plus, and apparently having problems in our board. So I want to go back quite a few years actually to when I did the very first, well, myself and James put together the very first Checkmate 1500. One of the things that we did on it was that I remember I didn't design that one, but one of the things we had in that was a bus expander on the end of the 500. And I get into this discussion going on about this, can the A500 expansion connector be called a bus, but it says so in the hardware reference manual. It calls it the Zorro bus, the original Zorro bus, so I'm going to refer to it as that. Technically, if you're an engineer, you probably wouldn't call it that. So the idea was that on the 500 you could plug all these cards on the outside. For example, actually I should have grabbed some. So for example, you could plug one of these on, which is a 590. I also have a 570, which is CD-ROM, and a whole load of products you could plug onto them. I have a, so here's my original A590 card. As you can see, it's got one of the little connectors in it. And the idea of this was that you plug it. So now on the original case, we had a board that turned the 500 bus through 90 degrees, and then this would sit inside plugged in, and it worked great. And we used to use them with we used to be able to put in it the 590 boards. C Limited made used to make SCSI cards, and then it was the other one we get GVP did a fantastic one called the A530. I'm not sure if that one actually went inside, but technically one, and we tested it with that one. And so and the 530 had the accelerator chip on it, and they were all running at quite high speeds, and you know they all worked absolutely perfectly. And so which kind of led me on to when I was doing the new 1500 case, which a lot of you have purchased, and I appreciate that. But I wanted to design this card you can see here, and the idea of this obviously is to do the same thing. In fact, it does it better. I've got to be honest, it does it better, because the original board I was never very happy because it had a tortuous route through to it, and it was an absolute nightmare. Whereas this is a nice straight board here, plugs on the side of the 500, and then this little card here with the gold fingers, that is then the expansion bus moved around. It's obviously a bit of a longer travel, but nice straight lines going through, so should be okay. And then so what we do is we put that on there, and then on this one here with the slot you can plug in an A5, an A590 card. I mean, this is quite old. To be honest, if you've got a 590, you're probably not going to want to put it in there because they're quite rare. So any of the cards, Supra, that was the other name I was trying to remember. So we used to plug in lots of great cards into this similar kind of slot. The one thing about this, people ask why is it more expensive than the power adapter. Well, these connectors are like $5 each, and let alone all the soldering. So they're actually it does push the price side. We don't make a lot on them, but anyway, that's beside the point. So the idea is so you can plug those cards in. Now, also at the top one, that is a full Zorro 2 expansion slot. Now it's based on designs that have been around forever. You give it a couple of extra signals, the extra pins, and it allows you to run a standalone 2000 card. And we've been running now. That's just a Zorro 2 card. I think Zorro 3 should usually work if they've got a fallback Zorro 2 mode. Basically, if they work in the 2000, they work. So that was all good. But obviously, what was going on? My thinking was, and if I put this screen up, there's a great little product out there called the ACA500 Plus, and this does a couple of really cool things. It does a number actually, to be fair. But what it does is it gives you gives you a fast 68,000. I've got mine. Well, actually, I don't have an accelerator on it, but You can go up to, I think, 28 megahertz or something like that, and it gives you 8 mega RAM, and it's got a couple of compact flash card slots, and there's potential to put a clock on it, and you can do a they're even now doing a network card. I mean, it's an amazing little multi-function device. And so when I spoke to Rob Cranley about designing my board for me, he'd already done a board that had basically, if you imagine, let's do this way round. So if you imagine, he had it the other way round. So let's say that was the board, yeah, no, sorry, it was hot. It laid flat basically. It plugged into the side, so and it laid flat, and that's how he did it. And he had an upright for the ACA or the 86 pin bus, and I think next to it had another a slot, or it might be sideways, something like that. So I thought, well, this guy's done the circuitry and he's run it with the ACA500. Fantastic. So then why not just do the same thing? And so we'll put both what he's already designed and modify it so it'll work inside the case. But on top of that, give you the power supply socket here, so you can plug a normal PC power supply into there, have a power switch, things like power a couple of fans, which you don't really need, but just in case you've got something running hot. And it's a lovely little board, and I think this works absolutely fantastically. And when I plugged the ACA500 in, it worked brilliantly. I had an individual computer's 1220 card on mine, which when I did my testing, I actually left the card on, which I'm going to come to that in a minute. And it worked perfectly. It's completely reliable. I just assumed it's like the old days with all the old cards that we used to run. And it said we even used to run the accelerator cards. If you get an accelerator card from the old, I know some engineers are going to be freaking out, but if you take one of those cards, technically there's a couple of signals you need to add, but you can run that on the expansion slot because it's basically a bus for the 68,000 bus. So we used to run that. We wouldn't make a product to do that, and don't even try it, okay? But technically we used to make them run. They run fantastic, and I think we had up like 40 megahertz O30s in there. So and I'll tell you why we was doing that was because back in the day, my partner James Campbell in my company then, the case on the left is the original 1500. The one on the right, you can see that bus board down there. Now this is a proper bus board, and you never actually saw this. This unfortunately it was going to be released by Innovatronics in America, but they went bust just before we really were going to start shipping this, so it kind of killed everything off. But you can see it's basically the same idea as this. However, what it does have on it is multiple 2000 slots, had a video slot on it, it had ISA slots on it, and had a CPU slot on it. I mean, every single slot you could possibly need in a tower case. And it had all bus arbitration, buffering, and cross as what else. And so it was a completely different beast to this. But all this is really doing is giving you an option of one or two slots, to use one of the other slot. So I come from a time when this kind of stuff was possible. Now this is where I come to the apology, because it appears over time that whereas these cards you could just plug in and they would, the distance between, if you imagine the distance between there and there is about that much longer, okay? And on the kind of boards that we used to put in here and all the kind of things that were available then, that was never an issue. But it appears that the ACA500 Plus, which I obviously promoted I thought I was actually doing something good, to be honest, but I thought, well, for people who haven't got a huge amount of money, as a budget system and as a medium performance system, they could put an ACA500 Plus in it, give them all they really wanted to make a nice little usable system. Personally, I don't bother. What I do is I've got Vampire in mine, and then I've got a Zorro slot, which at the moment I've got a network card, but at the moment I'm about to put in one of these, which I've wanted for ages, which is a 16-bit sound card. Okay, so I'm going to put that in mine with the Vampire. So I kind of always assumed high end. The problem seems to be that the new ACA500 Plus, because of the tech and the way, not the way it's designed, but because of what they're doing on it, it's obviously susceptible to bus timings, and bus timings are crucial for it. So and I kind of ran into individual before, because I put my 500 plus into my A1000 over there. It runs brilliantly, absolutely brilliant. You can put anything you like on it, 020 card, 030 card, and it just runs amazingly. So when I put that in on mine, yeah, everything's run absolutely beautifully. Now at the end of it, when I shut up, after me, it's going to be all my tests that I've done recently again, because I've gone through these tests again. So my when I plugged in originally, I'll go through it briefly now. Well, but let's get this apology out of the way. So basically, well, the problem is that I've assumed that it would be able to work. The bus timings wouldn't affect the ACA. My experiments proved it all worked. Rob's experiments proved it all worked. And but unfortunately, Pixel Vixen, she did a live stream of the build, and when she put hers together, it was just coming up green screen. It would boot okay, and it would come up. So to me, it boots to the control panel, so that to me says it's kind of working, but obviously not quite. But as soon as you try to go in and actually boot with the Kickstart ROM, it would green screen, and you'd have to keep rebooting it until it would eventually come up. Now, I personally have not. No, okay, even that's not quite true. On my, what you'll see later on is two A500 motherboards being shown working, because originally I had a V99, and I've moved up. Which when I took my accelerator out with V99 firmware, it went green. Now, I'd always plugged it in with the accelerator on. Yeah, I know. So that's what I'm basically apologising for, because I obviously didn't test it without the accelerator card and on more machines and more revisions, because we never had these problems in the old days. Cards used to plug in, they just worked, and they worked, you know. But I'm assuming because on the Plus, it's because it's using like a load of new technology, etc., etc. Bus timers have become a bit more crucial. So I've assumed everything's okay, and obviously it's not. Anyway, so after this video, you're gonna, well, not after this video, but when I shut up, there's a whole load of tests. Now I've got an A500 Plus revision 8A. When I had that, I plugged it in and it worked great. I mean, it works brilliantly with my Zorro 2 cards, but when I put the ACA500 Plus in it with the 020 on it, worked flawlessly. So I never had a problem with this. I didn't know what the problem was, but then when I took the 020 off, it green screened. Now I then was obviously upgrade to the latest one, and it was a comedy of errors. Actually, I wanted to keep, because I didn't have the firmware anymore, and I wanted to keep 99. And someone very kindly found the firmware for me, and it turned out it was 125. I thought, oh, that's okay, I'll plug it in and it'll say, you sure you want to do it? And if it's the wrong one, but he didn't, he just went straight through and did it, and it overwrote the firmware. Well, of course I'm panicking, thinking, oh god, I'm not going to be able to roll back. As it turned out, actually it worked. the ACA500 alone was working, no green screen. Although I must admit, it did get a bit twitchy. I did notice without the accelerator on it, it did get a bit twitchy every now and then. But most times, especially when it's cold, it was fine. Maybe it was getting warm. I mean, I checked the chips and they weren't hot. But yeah, so the 125 seemed to cure that. And then the 020 and the 030. But occasionally the 030 wouldn't boot when I plugged into the slot on the ACA card. So the 500 Plus was I wouldn't call it rock solid, but it was, in my experience, you see from the videos, it boot in, you know, cold boot, warm boot, and I think actually on that I'm actually I'm only cold booting it. I don't think I showed it because I didn't need to warm boot, because everyone said if you warm boot it a few times, and I had my keyboard didn't have control Amiga, so I couldn't do that. But I thought, well, I had another one, the L1500, the old original one. It's got an old revision 5. I don't think it's an I think it's revision 5 A500 mother, really old one. And so I was like, let's take that apart, put it in, whack, put it all together, put the board in, bang, worked. Put the 020, bang, worked. Put the 030, bang, worked. Right, and no matter what I did, I could never get it to go wrong. Okay, and that was on firmware 125. Nothing would go, and I tried it, and you're going to see, if you continue to watch this, you'll see all these tests at the end after I finish talking. So every single test worked flawlessly on the Rev 5. So I know that Vicky's got, I think she's got a couple of 6As. She's having no luck at all. She's having to keep warm booting it now, and I'm not averse to saying it could be a twitchy card. I mean, I didn't test every single one. We did a kind of a statistical test, but I'm personally, it's such a simple board. There's nothing complex on it, and so I can't see it being the board. But Vicky's had no end of trouble not being able to get it stable. So it's now I have been talking to Jens, and he's waiting for. Basically, he said we'll send us. There's some data he needs from us, but unfortunately, Rob's got to rebuild his. Unfortunately, he didn't have an ACA500 plus. I thought he permanently had one, but he gave it back, and so I think he's got another one. He's going to start getting all that data over to Jens by the end of the week. Now, Jens has said he'll have a look at it and see if there's something they can do. We are looking into this. As I said, it seems to be intermittent between obviously boards, and my Rev 5 might just be it just works well. But it's hard to say, but it does seem that different people have different responses. So when you see this video, and if you've got similar problems, or if yours is working, can you tell us and what Rev? If it's not working, can you tell us and what Rev 500? And so on. So we want to try and get to the bottom of this, because ultimately, whilst it wasn't the thing, I had no plans in doing it, because I got a vampire and there were many other. See, the thing is, it seems to disable the Zorro slot. We thought maybe they'd work together, but it disables it apparently, so it's hard to say at the moment. And so my thought was always just put the card on the 68,000, then you can use the Zorro slot. And the Zorro slot to me was always the important one, but I wanted that 86 pin slot there to keep things going, and to be able to give the option of using it. Right now, I'm still in the process of trying to decide what to do for the people who, no matter what they do, they can't get their ACA500 plus to work with. And of course, we've said, and which I'm sorry for, but we have said it works. From our experience, it was perfectly fine. So I'm trying to think what we can do now. I did think maybe we could. I actually don't know what to do for the best, because I did think about maybe refunding part of the cost of this, or giving people option to switch to the smaller board and then doing it a different way. But that makes no sense, because this is only about £23, or let's say £25 more than the little power board. But considering these slots cost £15, it would seem a shame to not have this for that. So we're trying to figure out what to do, and I will come back to you but I need to know the kind of numbers that we're talking about. Now, in the short term, if you bought one of these ACA500 plus, then obviously it's important you give us some feedback. If you bought one specifically for the case, let me know, give me some feedback, because we're trying to decide what's the best thing to do for people. Now, you may find I do need to know if it works, and I do need to know if it doesn't work, because I need to sort out a plan of action. In an ideal world, I would personally do something that's maybe not an ACA500 plus. However, it does solve so many things. I mean, it's such a nice board, but it depends if you're going to want to use a Zorro card. Like I've got, as I said, a network card, but technically with my Vampire, I've got a network built onto it, and so even with the ACA, it's got the potential for network and all kinds of things. But I want to run my 16-bit sound card, so I think it's best to leave that one empty and put the accelerator on. And now you get into the whole thing about, is the Vampire, this, that, and the other. I think the Vampire is the best one you could do. My system's got a Vampire in it. I recommend it. In fact, look at the videos, they all talk about the Vampire. So the Vampire's, for me, the way, if you want to build a high-end system. If you want a low-end system, then obviously the ACA is good. Now, I know people are going to say, yeah, but I can stick an 060 card in it. Well, if you can do that, if you're going to buy an 060 card, you might as well buy a Vampire. So, but we want to support it. It worked in our tests. Right, so that's about it. As I said, once I've got feedback from people, so I know who bought it specifically for the case, etc., because of course it's tricky for us. What's the right thing to do here. So obviously we didn't tell you to go and buy an ACA500. What we did, we told you that it would support the ACA500 which in our experience it did. But a lot of people are having trouble, so I need to know the numbers. So that's that. I'm sorry if you're having problems with yours, but you know, you'll see after this, when I've shut up, you'll see that, well, yes, I did get twitchy on my A500 Plus, but now that seems to work a lot better. And it made no difference. I did tests with the A500, or it's actually an A1200 power supply, same thing. Put that in it, and with the PC power supply, so it made no difference at all. And why would it? It just gives it more power. Anyway, so that's, I think that's about it. As I said, after this there'll be some more video, and please watch that because you can see all the testing I did. But as I said, get in touch with me if you're not doing ACA500s. This video wasn't for you, obviously. If you're thinking of buying one, I still think they are a great mid-range little system. I don't think it's worth buying one and then an accelerator to go on it. Not at all. That's not worth it to my mind. Stick a vampire in it. Okay, that's my personal opinion. Don't bother. But if you just want a little £125 card, whatever they cost, get you up money, and mildly accelerated, etc, etc, etc. I don't think you can. I mean, there are others. There's the Witcher, I think you can put in on board. There's a Terrible Fire one, but I don't think that. I'm not sure if that's got a compact flash. So there are lots of other options, which I doubt will have any of these issues because they're going into the Zorro. But yeah, for the time being, don't buy an ACA500 Plus. And you know, just put it on hold for the time being and see what happens here. I'm hoping that we can be done. I don't believe there's anything we can do in the board. I mean, but Rob's going to come back and he's going to have a good look at it and see if there is maybe something we can do, a modification on the board. It's just basically an extended bus, so I'm not sure what we can do there. But again, I'm sorry if because of that. Sorry if you're having problems. We are working on it. We hope to resolve it. And if we can't resolve it and it turns out that it just doesn't like having the bus extended at all, because you know, on the individual site it says only to be used connected. Okay, fair enough. It also says don't use it on a 1000, which works great. So but I'm kind of caught between a rock and a hard place here. But anyway, so give us your feedback, as I said. And as usual, I waffled on forever. Those are like short videos. I've done it again, haven't I? But this is an important subject. Okay, so thanks very much, and please stick around and watch my test. You'll see it's on mine. It's especially the Rev 5 is as stable as anything. Could not make it crash. Perfect, no problem whatsoever. You'll also find with the Plus, I never had any problem with accelerators in it. So that makes me think that the data's getting through to it. Okay. So I think it's just some of the functionality on the ACA, timings and that kind of thing, where it's being affected by, you know, the extra bus length. But we'll see what the response comes from there. But it is a great product for medium performance machine. I don't think there's much out there that can beat it at the moment. So, but if you haven't bought it yet, just hold off. Okay, all right. Thanks a lot. See you soon. Bye. So here we go. Here's my ACA500 Plus. As you can see, it's plugged into the bus extender. I've got nothing on it. It's literally on its own, and I've actually reset this to defaults as well. So let's, if I can do this, turn it on. I haven't got the LEDs connected, have I? Right, so now we can see the screen boot. That comes in, which it did this before anyway. But let me just go into, as you can see, if I zoom in on here, you can see 0125. Let's go back. Press go. Now this is my 3.1 setup. Remember, standard ACA500 on our bus extender. It's a lovely board, that bus extender, Rob. I've got to be honest, really neat and tidy. It was a bit of a shame about the PSU thing, having to short that resistor. But having said that, you know, we will do a new version, which will be a jumper on it. So you can just remove the jumper. There you go. So that's now just running with the standard ACA500 accelerator. So it's not. I think I've only got it set to 14 megahertz as well. So it's not super fast, but it doesn't matter. That's not the point. Right. So that's that one. Okay, so now I've put my ACA 1221 EC, which is an 020 card. It's a lovely little card, made by individual again. So let's turn it on. Okay, you can see the lights flashing. Up comes the screen. Press again. And again, it does take a little while to boot. But that's just, I think, my setup. If we go down here, you can see it's waiting for it to flash. It'll start flashing in a second. Any second. Oh, there you go. It's coming up. There you go. So that's with my 020. So that's all pretty good. So that looks good to me. Okay, so what you can see here now is my my Blizzard 1230 Mark IV. It's got 32 meg RAM. It's got a 50 megahertz 030. Let's see what that does. Turn it on. Lights flash. So have a look at the screen. Press F1. Little blue flashing lines. Not sure what they're all about. I assume it's a map ROM or something like that. It does get there, don't worry. There we go. Yeah. So I think that's pretty good. Right, here we go. This is some more ACA500 plus testing. So this is a really old Amiga 500. It was actually in the old Checkmate 1500 case, but I've put it in here on to test it. So because my other one's an A500 plus. Now I've got the accelerator in here, so it's gonna appear up on that screen. So now I've actually got it on this page, for no reason, just I'm testing it quickly on here before I plug in the other power supply, and you can see it's coming up. It's a bit higgledy-piggledy setup here. So I just press F1. It's loading up this does take a little while to start. I did think it was actually doing nothing. Interestingly, oh, you can't see that. The LEDs are doing all kinds of... Oh, I know why. Because there's no DF0 in there. But give it a minute. There you go. So that's booted up from cold. Okay. But that's with the 020 in it. So let's try it without. Okay, right, I've disconnected it. It's all turned off. Go to the power switch. Turn that on. Okay, so it's coming up there. Okay, it's all come up. Press F1. It does take a little while again. It's doing that funny thing with the floppy. I think the floppy disk is because there's no floppy disk drive in it, so that's probably why. But well, it's not gone green screen, so. Here we go. So that's with the standard ACA 500 plus, and that's on an old board. Be interesting to see if this is twitchy. So I'm gonna. I won't be. I've heard that there's potentially problems with pluses, which I've got a plus. See, that's my other machine which I was testing. I've put my Vampire back in there now because I got fed up testing that one. It does seem a little bit. The plus does seem a little bit flaky in there, but we'll get this. I'm going to boot this a few times and then we'll see how reliable it is. Okay, here we go again. This time I'm running from that, which is I'm not going to say a cheap power supply, but it's a little £30 SFX power supply, which is more than good enough. It's about £30 to 300 watts, and so I'm going to press the button at the front. Again, it's an old Rev 5, and so far it's been completely solid. Okay, so you can see the fans go, because nothing makes any noise. And there it comes up again. Loads up. It does take a while. It's only because I put a floppy disk in. Do remember that. I really should just put a floppy disk in, shouldn't I? Would make a lot more sense. There you go. Right, so that's a standard one. Let's put the A30 in again. Let's turn that off. Right, that's off. No, let's get the A20 first. I'll tell you, I'll just run these, shall I? I'm not sure it's a good idea doing this all one-handed. Right, that's with the A20. Nothing on the screen. You can see the fan spinning. Can't hear nothing. Right, there we go. So that's got an A20. Now, why am I leaving these pauses in here? Because if I take the pauses out, I know what will happen. Someone will say I cut out the crash. So it just means that you've got to sit through this. I may speed this through, actually. I don't know. There we go. So that's with the O20. Not gone tits up once yet. Right, I'm going to pause this. Okay, now I've got in the O30. Again, I should have plugged in the floppy disk, but there you go. So let's switch this on. Fans going. Then the sorry, it's already started. Again, it's going to be slow because I haven't got a floppy disk in it. It's quite funny because you can see the green light coming on the LED. It's got the right up. Where's that floppy disk? Here it comes. Bong. No problem at all. Now, okay, this time I've got a Blizzard 12. It is higgledy-piggledy and it's being held up by screwdrivers, a bit of tape and that kind of thing, but welcome to my world. Right, so let's have a look at that. So that's come up there. Press F1. In between these videos, I've done 2 or 3 tests with the standard ACA and there's not been a problem. The delay is because I haven't plugged in a floppy disk drive. It keeps looking, it's hunting for it. But it'll give up in the end. Don't worry, it's coming. There you go. Now that's with the O30. So we'll try again. I'll keep going with these tests.